Hey everybody, my name's Jay,
Hi, I'm Saji here.
and welcome back to this series. Today we're doing designing better data models with an AI coding agent, and it's part of the modern apps, or I should say modern AI apps with Azure Cosmos DB series. We've got like 8 more to do with these once a month?
That's right, yeah.
Cool. So we don't want to take up too much of your time before we get into this. So we've got a problem that I should say, left our show with last time. But before we start fixing that problem, we want to just do a little housekeeping. So please forgive us as we get started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our next live stream. I'll be your producer for this session. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional, and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer live. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Reactor channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our speakers for today. Thank you for joining.
Well, we got that out of the way. So, Saji, I want to get right into it, okay?
Let's go ahead. I'm excited to see what we are building today.
I want to jump back into what we were working on last time, which was an app called Cosmic Movies. And so the last time we were here, we ran into a runtime error trying to get everything to work. And let's say hi to some of our viewers watching from Greece. Thank you very much, Opa, whatever it is. And then we're going to go say hello to Canada. I hear you got great French fries and gravy. I got to check that out sometime. Oh, wait, I have. And then we've got someone from Mexico. How you doing? Hope you're having a great one. Tampa Bay. I don't like your baseball team, but that's my decision. Anyway, like I was saying, we were getting back to this. We found out that there was an issue with TSL, SSL on this particular site we were working on. So, Saji, you want to tell people why that might happen with the emulator occasionally?
Yeah, that might be the reason. One of the reasons is that we might not have loaded the set. So probably you need to load that. And also, and it has a dependency on the NPM, right? So I think it's already.
And it's exactly, so before we got started, I didn't want to come into this with nothing. I wanted to make sure you all had something to kind of work with. And so here we are. So let's double check that our emulator still has everything. And remember that we're going to be doing all this live. And so if you don't recall, I do have the repo we'll be working with. I'm going to be checking in stuff as we go along. So you'll be able to follow along. You can use this as much as you want. So let's make sure. So last time we were here, we had this and we were putting things into emulators, G. And you can see that the emulator issue that we ran into, it looks like the agent found it and fixed it.
It's awesome.
And it was exactly what we had said. It was the certificate. npm run cert worked end to end. What happened was when we were trying to start it before, there are certain parts of the Azure Cosmos DB SDK, and I believe it's JS and Java that require you to import, run it with HTTPS, and most of the time import the certificate.
That's right, yeah.
You'll run into this issue occasionally, and it's not something that's all that nuts. I think that you'll see these, and here's the actual thing that I like that's pretty cool. It looks like terrible in this browser, but VS Code does have a browser, so you don't even have to have an extra one open, but I want to. So it rebuilt the actual server that this is running on, the JavaScript server. And so you see it went down. And what we're going to do is it's rebuilding next, which is our front end. We're getting an internal server error. The great thing about working with agentic coding, Saji, that I love is this like tight, quick feedback loop we have. So, you
So
know,
right now, what we're getting into, I think the API is not returning the data. Is that
okay.
right?
So the agent's going to recognize that the data that's
Yep.
not being put in here, because obviously the app isn't going to work without the information that it needs. So what it's trying to do is do a clean rebuild of the actual server. Let's see if I can open this up for you all to see a little more. And it's restarting the server, and let's take a look. Trying to run the server, and it doesn't really seem to do anything, and that's cool. And don't worry, we're not going to just be talking about this. We will get into data models. That is on the next list, but we want to kind of finish this. So let's figure out what's going on. There's some type errors. We're getting 500s. The production homepage returns 200 with the seeded data. So it doesn't do that for me, and we need to figure that out. So it says here production homepage returns 200 with server seeded data. The cert works with full TLS, but let me confirm dynamic page, detail page, different query path, then I'll stop the test server. So it's going to go ahead. It's a big conversation. And the only reason why, Saji, is I've got Claude Opus, which is my model, and I got it set to max. So it's doing some very, very deep thinking about what our problems are.
Yep.
And if you haven't already, we would love to know where you're watching from. A bunch of you have already shared that with us. And we also want to take questions. So if you got questions for us, let us know. So all three page types return 200 in production. Let's see.
Yep. I think if you're joining newly for this series, so probably Jay, do you want to explain the setup
Sure.
one
So
more time? Yeah.
the last time we were here, we wanted to build essentially a movie review website. And we wanted to do it where our data was hosted in. Oh, all right. Let me make them a little bigger. Sorry. So the certain employees, please, here's what's going on. I couldn't. So we don't need to have a production build anyway. So it's still building and doing what I do. But anyway, let me get back to what we were talking about. So we started building this movie review site. We were basing it all on using the Cosmos DB emulator. We seeded some data. We were able to view the data within the Azure Cosmos DB emulator, where we stored all of our data. So we need to figure out what's on 3000. So let's kill that. And then let's do an npm run dev, which should start it again on port 3000. So it's compiling, and then it should start the page. Let me take a look. I think the YouTube setting is that, but sorry if it's not. All right, so the site's back up. It looks like we finished fixing that problem, which was all of the certificate. It was all the certificates issue. That happens. So let's take a look a bit at the actual data that's in there. All right, Suji. So let's go to Azure. And the last time we were here, we took a look at the plugin for Azure Cosmos DB for being able to view the data. So, Suji, you want to give everybody just a quick reminder of what it is?
Yeah, it is one of the developer tools that we are giving for Cosmos DB users. So you can install from the marketplace, and you can do AI-assisted coding. So we have the auto-release IntelliSense support if you're writing queries, and you can generate queries using AI if you're not familiar with NoSQL keywords. And it also supports something called as chat participant. You can tag at Cosmos DB and ask questions related to your container or anything specific to designing the solution, like partition key or how much RU is consumed for that query. So all information is embedded in the chat participant. And you can typically view the data in different formats like JSON format, tree view format, and table format. So all these features are available. And you can play with emulator embedded with the VS Code extension. So you don't have to switch from VS Code to any Azure portal or CLI.
Cool. And so one of the things that we've been leaning on in this is one, the Linux emulator. Suji, you might share in the URL in the chat, but this is the latest Linux emulator they can use. You won't need an actual Azure Cosmos DB account when you're ready to go to production. And please don't use this app in production. Please don't. I'm begging you. But when you go and you grab the Cosmos DB emulator, it gives the ability to run. Most features are there. It is the NoSQL API only. So that's something you'll have to work with. And so before we left, Suji, we talked really quick about making this multi-tenant. So that would lead me to believe that we have to have the right data model in order to have this as a multi-tenant application.
That's right. I think data modeling is one of the critical concepts when you're thinking of NoSQL databases. So Cosmos DB, again, it's one of the critical things that you need to think before you even start the application, right? So there are a few things in Cosmos DB. One is called as partition key, because that's the way we distribute data. So if you have to explain partition key in a simple term, it's a logical grouping of the data. So we store the data in containers. So if you create an account, Cosmos DB account, and then you have databases and then containers. Basically what we do is we create partitions and store the data, right? So if you have to put in simple terms, you can think of the data structure, you can think as a cabinet where you have multiple folders and you are naming the folders with some specific names, right? It could be J, it could be Saji, the folder names, and then you have the data within it. So that's how we define the distribution in the Cosmos DB, which is called as partition key. So when you design an application, partition key is a critical concept. That's how you're going to distribute the data. So Cosmos DB store the data in containers. As your data grows, it splits the container into small chunks called partitions. Again, when you save a document, Cosmos DB look at the partition key value. When I say, for the example that I said, like we are naming the folders as J, Saji. So you can basically look at what are the data relevant to, say, J, and then drop it to the matching folder. So when you do a query on Cosmos DB, you have to make sure that you are able to get the data faster. It doesn't span across multiple partition. That is one of the key thing. And also, since you are defining the cost in RUs, that is the request unit, you need to make sure that it doesn't cost much RU. So you need to understand the partition key concept thoroughly. That is one of the things that we are going to do as we code throughout this session. And it comes with 3 rules, basically. One is high cardinality, and then you need to make sure that data is evenly distributed. And you need to see the patterns that you're using within the app, whether it's read heavy or write heavy app. And based on that, you have to choose the partition key. Yeah, we can go ahead in the app scenario.
Cool. So we're talking about data models, and we want to make some modifications to Cosmic Movies. So one of the things that we're going to lean on, and we've been leaning on, is the Cosmos DB agent kit. And this is going to provide us with all these different types of best practices. So data modeling is one of the most critical, as Suji just mentioned, and the partition key design also extremely important. So if we're going to introduce some new variables into this application, we're going to want to talk to the agent, since it's going to do a lot of the work for us. So one of the things that I like to do is to create a plan. So you can go into VS Code and you can switch the type of agent that you're working with. And in my case, I want to do plan. Why is it doing start implementation? Anyway, so what we want to do is this. We want to make this application multi-tenant. Give me a plan to do so, and make sure we have a data model that will support this site properly. consider the partition key. Oh, I did not. One thing that's really good is that most of the time it knows what you're misspelling. It will do it anyway for typo people. So consider the partition key and best practices. So right now, what I've done, publish a new version. Oh, that's a great question for you, Suji.
Yeah, while you're doing that, there's a question. Yeah, regarding the shell, right? It looks like with the latest release, the MCP experience have been broken. So can you file an issue on the GitHub repo? Given that it's in preview, there might be chances that something has broken. So yeah, the release would be by next week. So we're adding more features related to some of the configuration related to Cosmos DB. Like you can experiment through the preview package that we are going to publish. So it's in probably next week or week after next week. So yeah, it will be sooner. But if you file an issue, we can check this and report back. Like you can follow through the issue that you're creating. Thanks for reporting.
So if you can see here what's going on right now, it's actually kind of going through the different machinations it needs to make some decisions. Like I said, we have high or max reasoning on here, so it's going to really think. And the one thing that's great about plan mode is it's not actually going to start making changes. It's literally going to just come up with an idea of how to do the work that you want it to do. And sometimes that's great because then you can make some decisions and say, you know what, that's not going to work for me. And creating kind of like a spec ends up being really important. So this is like the basic way of kind of creating a spec for your agent driven application, is just asking it to come up with a plan. But there are other tools, Suji, that I know that you can use, like what is it, like OpenSpec and
SpecKit is one of the tool. And then OpenSpec is another tool. These two provides different benefits. I think SpecKit is more like a waterfall model that we typically follow. Like we keep on iterating things. And then OpenSpec is like more like a new way of doing things where you fix then and there. It has benefits in terms of both. So you can try out both.
Cool. So let's take a look at what's going on. So just to get back to what our original problem was, we needed to have this all corrected as far as the emulator TSL SSL certificate. So wow, this is providing us with a bunch of information, but it's mapped out the current data model. It's grounded the approach in the best practices skill. And what it's showing right now is this single tenant data model, which all accesses and data types in data TS. So let's go ahead into app. I think data TS should be in there. There's a library. Yeah. So Suji, why don't we talk through this a little bit?
Yeah, there is a question. Do you want to address that? The question is whether the spec that you have put, it includes the front end as well as back end.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Everything here that is in the Cosmic Movies repo, the front end and the back end are both included. Yep. And the back end is very minimal. It's still going through it, and it's actually it's giving us a suggested hierarchical partition key with the tenant ID as the broadest level. It's going to sidestep the 20 gigabyte logical partition limit. And so these are all real core Azure Cosmos DB concepts: the partitioning, the data modeling, and eventually the type of partition key that you're going to want to use.
Yeah, when it comes to data modeling, I think the partition key selection is critical. Again, as I mentioned, you have to check for high cardinality patterns and then check for data or the partition key, which can be evenly distributed to avoid hot partition. And we have multiple ways to solve, like when the data grows, or if you want to scale your app across different users and so on. So previously, we used to have a concept called synthetic partition key. Basically, you can add combination of fields. So if you have a JSON document. In this case, movies like reviewer and comment, you can combine both and then add as a synthetic partition key to avoid, to make it evenly distributed. And then one of the trade-off I would say is you must construct it on writes. So that is one of the trade-off that we had. So, and then we recently introduced, this was back in 2022, something called as hierarchical partition key, which is one of the best ways to do like multi-tenant apps. So you can define a partition key up to 3 levels. So in this case, Jay is building a multi-tenant scenario, like multi-tenant movie reviewing app. Or so you will have a tenant ID, and then within tenant, you will have users. So you will have a user ID, and then probably something related to movies like a session ID or movie ID. So you can combine all these three and choose the best partition key. This is the best use case is like when you are building multi-tenant apps, and then if you want to note reads within a tenant, like so. I think in this case, the agent has used the agent kit to come up with the best recommendation, which Jay has showed in the previous screen, and he also had it in the plan.
What I'm going to, so I don't know why it's saying start implementation again, but let's go back into agent mode. And so what we want to do is, you can see that it actually came up and put in memory a whole plan to actually put this in place. So I want to make sure that this is in a doc that you all can get at. So let's do plan.md. I'm going to drop this in here for you all. And now I'm going to actually check it in. So check in, do commit, save all commit changes, and then let's sync it. So you're able to go ahead and see the changes we just made it now. As far as getting SSL working, but on top of that, this plan to actually upgrade is in there. So let's go over the steps real quick. We can just use the markdown preview here. I hate it when it does it to the side. Let's just show markdown preview. Yep. So the draft is what we have here, and it's just a plan of what we're going to enact. So it's actually going to give us an analysis of what currently exists. So the containers that are currently in Cosmos DB, the partition key. So it looked at everything and made some decisions. So then it actually took a moment and used the Azure Cosmos DB best practices skill, which is a monolith of, what is it, like 100 and something skills, like 120 skills, Saji?
Yeah, we have around 160 plus. Yeah.
And all those skills are meant to specifically get you the best possible experience when you're building your application. Because if we've learned anything from what users have experienced, the problems don't come right away. They come later on when you have an abundance of traffic, when you're doing a lot of different operations. If you don't have the properly scoped application to the right partition key, to the right type of index, all that stuff. If you don't have it, you're going to end up spending countless amount of time trying to get everything right. You're going to want to make sure that you can utilize this agent kit to do things also like ask it questions about an existing application. Like, why is my app using so many RU? I think that's
maybe do you want to show the JSON, like the final schema of what the movies look like, so that we can deep dive into?
Well, it hasn't put it in place yet. Let me see if the schema is in here. Or let's just say, what is the proposed schema? So that's the other great part, is that since we asked for a proposal, it can just go ahead and we can ask it the question. And hopefully it'll get us that answer on how to like look at our existing data model and how to modify it. Now, our plan gives us some ideas about how to set partition keys for these different containers. That being the final data model looking like this. So movies, the partition key /tenant/ID. Then we stay on counters per documentation. The reviewer's partition key, same. The reviews themselves, we're going to be reviewing the movies. So we need to know the partition key there.
Yeah.
And actually, it gave us a ton of information, Suji, about the
Yeah.
document shapes. Let's take a look at that. So there we are. And then we'll save it as stuff.md. I don't remember what the file name was, but anyway. And then we'll just show. Good.
Yeah, right now it has given 4 entities. I could see like movie, reviewer, yeah. And then you could see like there is genre as part of the movie, right? So that is one of the important concept, like when to reference or when to embed. I think when you are designing containers, this is from a non-relational database world, but in relational you would define primary key and foreign key. But in Cosmos DB, we try to reduce the number of containers because of the limitations that I mentioned, like not limitations, the trade-offs. Like you might have to query across multiple containers, which might result in more RUs. So there is a concept called embedded versus reference. You can use embedded like format the way that Jay was showing, like movie has genre, right? So you can use embedded when you want to read data together or when you have one to few mappings and if the data doesn't change often. So you can use that way. Again, the advantage is that single point read will cost minimum RUs. It's just one RU. So that's one of the best way. Like you can follow like when to choose versus when to refer when you're doing the data modeling in Cosmos DB. So this schema looks like we have got all the interfaces defined so that we can use it in the TypeScript app. So it looks good. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So right now, I asked it for what is this the best possible design? I wanted to take a second cursory look. It made some decisions, but I want one more pass through. I like doing that. I like to be certain. It to me is just important to show some certainty in this. There's another question that's open that came from Vitali. HBKs don't work properly in the latest. Yeah, that's a known issue. Any idea when the next version will be released?
Yeah, in terms of VNX emulator, because it's built on a different backend, right? So it uses Postgres behind the scenes, but we try to emulate the experience what you get on the like native Cosmos DB. So there are things like vector search or any related features that we have launched recently as not part of the emulator, but we are making efforts to get that parity across both emulator as well as the live account. This will take some time, but regarding the hierarchical partition key, it's a critical thing because I think one of the main concept, right? So we will try to get that soon. I can't comment on the ETA, but yeah, probably we will work with the team to provide an update on the GitHub issue that you have mentioned. Thanks again for raising this.
Thank you, Vitaly. Appreciate it. And once again, I just wanted to say I love getting questions from you all, especially about our tooling. So G's got a bunch of answers for you. Feel free to ask. So right now, I asked it if this is the best possible design, and really, it's actually having a conversation with itself. This is the process of when it's using maximum thinking, if you will, and reasoning on why. Is it's going to go through and it's provided me with an answer. It's a strong aligned design and a good default, but it's not unconditionally the best. The best depends on one requirement I had to assume, and there are a few places I defined. Let me be direct about it then. So yeah, it's saying the one assumption that decides everything. I default the catalog to isolated per tenant because I was away. I was right here, but I have it on autopilot because I don't want to approve everything. So it's actually given some ideas on how to refine the current design. And that was design that this agent came up with the agent kit skills. It's just that we hadn't gone into a hierarchical, or I should say a multi-tenant situation where we would need something like a hierarchical partition key. So right now you can see we've got some design that it would like to refine, especially around like fan out for the reviewer profile, isolation, what's already right. So it's giving you what is correct. So it's giving me all the right decisions, but it wants to know if I want to adopt a refinement for movies review or higher. So let's just stick with the plan that it came up with. So execute plan. Sometimes it's as simple as that. You tell it to execute a plan and it'll go from there. So while this is all going on, I wanted to show you another application that I've got here that also has got a ton of problems. So here's another one that I came up with, and it's called case flow. So let's open up. And I'm going to share it with you all here. Caseflow is just it's a simple educational Azure app. It's meant to help you start learning and understanding how to work with something that's broken. You want to find all the problems in an application, or at least try to find a lot of the Cosmos DB problems. Caseflow is perfect because then it'll actually give you the idea to use the agent kit, start up the app locally. So let's basically just say, start the app. I like doing it this way sometimes. It's fun. I am going to change it so we don't have such high reasoning. And we're using GPT 5.5. Let's go nuts, Saji. Let's use SIT 5.6. And so let's tell it to start the app, and it'll do just that. So we've got a bunch of problems for this scenario. Basically, the story that I like to tell is that there's this company named Caseflow, and one of their problems is that they were due to provide a multi-tenant application that's for a help desk. And they were told that they needed it done like in a week. That seemed like a lot. So they used a lot of agentic coding, but they didn't know about the Cosmos DB agent kit. And so they put in a bunch of things in places to basically just get things running. Sometimes you just want the lights on, but once the lights are on, they could start flickering. Your bills can get way too high. The performance could suffer. Either way, it really probably is not the best idea to not at least take a look at what best practices exist. So let's go ahead and bring up Caseflow. So it's running on port 5173. I don't know why I did that. Hey, we're doing it live. And that is port, I think it's port 4000. Let's see. Oh, the front end is listening. The API is okay. Let's see. 5173. That's the byte server. Yep. So let's take a look. Caseflow is up. So it's multi-tenant. We've got just the basic, like almost anything works here, but we've got admin as a login. And we can go here and get our tenant to get started. We're going to need, I believe, the API. So that's probably still just coming up. As you can see, no connection can be made to the target machine. So it's finding problems with the backend API. Okay, so it's using the local emulator, and that's really what's going on. I think that the database wasn't seeded yet, Saji, and because of that, this isn't. So it's going through that seeding process. So let's allow. Let's give it default approvals, so I can just go through it. Enable. So seeding is completed, and the backend now owns port 4000, and there we go. So one of the things that I did here, Saji, is I went through, I created a little diagnostics page. And this diagnostics page is going to actually just show you what we're using as far as this site, how many RUs, how many point reads, how many queries are happening. Are those queries efficient? And so this is all going on right now. You can see what the background RU is, the cross partition, the average duration. Basically, we know everything that's going on right now. And we can see that there's a lot of cross partition queries that are going on here. You want to explain why that's bad, Saji? I think you went on mute.
Yep. Thanks for sharing, Jay. Yeah, as I explained in the beginning, when you have data modeling not done right, this would be one of the issues that you would be seeing, and this might result in high cost, account as well. So a hot partition happens when you write a query that spans across multiple partition. When you don't mention the partition key in the query that you're executing, that is one of the like common use cases that customers have, failed to apply. So yeah, that is one of the critical thing that you need to understand. The queries or the right patterns that you're doing within an application, it doesn't need to be a cross partition query. It has to be always scoped to a single partition. That's the best way, and also it can help you to optimize in terms of RUs. Yeah.
So you can see here that our total RU by operation is query. And that query, it's using so much RU because let's face it, it's not well built, obviously. So let's take a look and say, why do I have so many cross partition queries? So now it's going to actually take a look at the container partition key and the query calls, and then it's going to make a decision on why this is working so poorly, why it's costing us so much. And in the long term, it could actually make one of our 3 customers, whether it's Northwind Traders, Contoso, or Fabricam, one of them are, if this site and answers to their customers are too slow, the application goes down, performance is to a point where it's costing you as a business more money to provide the service than what the customer is actually paying you. So you could end up with an incorrect designed application, and just the database could cost you way more than you're expecting. And why? Because data model might not be correct, partition key might not be correct, all these things. So 2 amplifiers are present. Let's see. The primary cause is the container partition by the /ID, while the query filters by tenant, case ID, or type. So it automatically detected that this is just a poorly made data model for our application, which is leading to bad queries. So the live probe used the router base without its /query suffix, so the route itself is all right. So the cache form is confirmed. So this is just the traffic generator that it's saying about this about. And I've gone ahead and created a baseline for what it is. So the buffer confirms that, yep, so all these operations are cross partitions with 21 background ops. So it's going to group those and shape how the code is dominating and treating it as a differentiated number. So while it's coming up with that, why don't we take a look at what's going on with Cosmic Movies? What do you say?
Yep. I think that's
so Cosmic Movies now it's still building, and it's actually re-implementing all the things that it asked for. It's specifically around executing the plan. So we're going to go with partition key best practices, single partition let's read, and hierarchical partition key for reviews. So it's going ahead and it's basically refactoring the whole website based on the fact that we wanted to make it multi-tenant because that we had to implement a different data model. So it's going in there and it's going to make those fixes. So as I understand the hot partition, this is from Vitaly. As I understand, the hot partition is important when you have more than one physical partition. Am I right? Suji, why don't you give him an answer?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the question. As I understand, hot partition is important when you more
Yeah,
than one.
I wasn't particularly sure myself. But you want to give just a basic physical partitions and why that's important.
Yeah, in terms of partitioning, as I mentioned, right, hot partition happens when you try to execute a query across multiple partition. If you have a wrong partition key, for example, the scenario that I mentioned, uh, say if I need to query, if you're storing data and you have the partition key as city. So city could be a high cardinal value when you store large number of customers or profile data. And when you don't pass the city in the query that you're executing, then it's going to search across, n number of partition depending on the data that you have stored. So that time it will result in hot partition because you might scan across all partition and particularly one at a certain point. When you do that, there might be a single partition that might get multiple number of requests, right? So that's where like hot partition scenario happens. So in order to avoid that, that's where like you need to see where you can evenly distribute data by choosing the right partition key. So I hope that was the question. Yeah, if it doesn't make sense, you can probably reframe and ask if we didn't get it properly.
And what's really cool about this is it actually gives you a little bit of an information on the SQL query with no partition key filter. And you can see Cosmos will fan out the query every single time. So this is an example of a query that probably isn't the best because it's going to go cross partition because it's not using the right key to actually do this. So let's move along. We'll go back to case flow and see what it's offering us. All right. So case flow has taken a look at our partitions. So why don't we tell it? Make the fix, document it, and document it. So one of the things I like to do is I always want to tell my agent to document what it's done. One of the things that I always appreciate that makes it easy is that it'll keep kind of running memory of everything that you've done in that chat. And so if it's come up with a plan for you, one of the things that I really like to do is tell it to keep a journal. And so every time throughout your build journey, you commit something, you make a change, your agent recognizes that there's something new, it'll actually go and it'll append it to the journal. And then you're going to be able to come back to that journal, make some decisions. And eventually, if you need to say, well, 3 weeks ago, we made this one particular change. I go forward 3 weeks later, and now something isn't working. So now we can actually tell our agent, look in the journal and make a decision on why this stopped working properly. So there, again, is that tight feedback loop we were talking about. Being able to find by being able to ask our agent, keep docs as you're doing work. So right now, it is taking a look and going to actually implement a fix end to end. So it's going to basically require some data model changes, some query changes, and eventually it'll get to the point where we won't have as many cross partitions queries that are going on. And obviously that's nice because that'll save us some money and improve the efficiency of our application. So this is going to take a little while because it's implementing a lot. Both of these are going to take a little while because they're implementing a lot of changes. With Cosmic Movies, it's basically rewriting the entire application in front of us. And now here we are. It's become multi-tenant. We can choose sites. So actually finishing this, it's not completely done. It's still rolling through, but we can see things are starting to come together. So let's take
I mean, just to highlight on critical things that you need to decide before writing the application, or you can let the agent to do things for you. But you need to validate, whether you are doing the data modeling in the right manner. So as I mentioned, you need to review the access patterns, whether it's going to be a heavy read application. In this case, the movies app is a heavy read application because we are just going to show what's in the database, right? So if your query has the, you need to make sure that query has the partition key always, so that you don't get into cross partition query. And you also need to choose depending on the query patterns. So for example, if there is a layout that has, to order by the latest movies, then you need to make sure that you add composite indexes because you're going to, um, order by a timestamp. So those concepts you need to validate, before you start implementing, and make sure that what are the models that we suggested through the agent kit, it aligns with your application language as well. So you might need to write the contract in TypeScript, or if you're doing it in C#, you might need to write those classes. So review those before you even start doing that in the implementation side. Yeah.
And one of the other things, Saji, that I like to do when I'm building something like this is that when we're adding new features or making major changes, we should really tell our agent to build tests, build some unit tests, actually ensure that what we're doing as we build it will work. And so once it's actually verified end to end that everything's working, and it says verified, everything is, and it's actually, if you remember the first time around we were here, we actually asked the site to build us a standard Copilot instructions file. And this is just literally a full plan end to end on what we want to build, so that if you want to build this on your own and not have to do it right from the repo, you can use this Copilot instructions file and basically hand it to your agent and say, this is what I want built. And it will say, okay, it may need some more information. One of the things I also like to do, Saji, is I like to ask my agent to interview me when I don't really know exactly all the answers that it wants right away. So I'll go to my agent when I have a problem that I need to fix, and I'll just say, why don't you interview me and ask me some questions that I need answered. I just love being able to use the agent in so many different ways aside from just writing code. And today, we've kind of looked at two different scenarios. One of them being basically taking an application and refactoring it based on, all right, we're just building upon something we already used the agent kit to help us build. The original data model wasn't terrible. It just wasn't meant for a multi-tenant application. So what did we do? We told the agent that we wanted it to use the agent kit to help it ensure that everything that they're doing in this multi-tenant application is configured correctly. Does that sound about right, Saji?
Yep. I guess there is a long question on the chat. Probably we can take that. And it's very important question as well, because we were talking about hot partition. So as I read it correctly, the question is about whether that scenario is normal. Yes, it's normal when you have only one physical partition, right? Because when your container is under 50 GB and if you're using low throughput, less than 10,000 RUs, Cosmos DB keeps everything in single physical partition. So with one physical partition, the heat map will be always hot. That's what you would see in the metrics, because it's just a single partition, right? So 100% of the traffic will go there by definition, and that's not a. I think the question is whether you need to worry about the data modeling. It's not a data modeling problem. It's just a single partition container. So you might need to increase the throughput, or you might need to optimize, as Jay was discussing about choosing a different partition key. And if it's needed, otherwise you are fine. When it actually matters, if the container goes past 50 GB throughput, or throughput triggers at a split, then Cosmos DB might create additional physical partition. So at that point, the traffic is still concentrated on a one partition key range. Then you will have a real hot partition problem, right? So that's where you need to worry about. But right now it looks good to me based on the question you asked.
Cool. So we've also got case flow moving forward. And it's actually, so here's the difference. And this is why I wanted to show you two different applications today. Because I wanted to do two different scenarios. One of them is basically, like I said, we took an application that we built alongside the agent kit. We just wanted to expand upon it. So we use the agent kit as a building tool. Let's go ahead and help our agent build this correctly with Azure Cosmos DB's best practices. So we used it as a building tool. And in the case of Caseflow, we've actually used it as more of a diagnostic tool. And I think that's one of the big things I like about it. I asked my agent, why is this costing me so much? Why am I using so many RUs? Why do I have so many like cross-partition queries? And the agent was actually able to answer the question and propose a plan to help rectify the problem. And then essentially implementing it. And I have some of that tooling where I'm actually able, so it's still working. The API is probably down at the moment. It's going through its build process. But we'll be able to run diagnostics again or look at your native metrics within Azure. And if you're not using an emulator like we are, you're using a live Azure, you'll be able to look directly into the agent log, or I shouldn't say the agent log, the metrics and performance of Azure Cosmos DB. You'll be able to see if the number of cross-partition queries is reduced. Like I said, I just made some diagnostic tooling for myself because I want to be able to show this with the emulator. Cool. So let's see how Cosmic Movies is doing, because Caseflow has got a lot of changes. It's doing everything from deployment and runtime, because I believe, yeah, I've actually also given you deployment plans within here and some CI/CD. So if you want to check out Caseflow to be able to do some break and fix, it's there for you. I believe I gave you the repo. But let's take back a look at Cosmic Movies and see how it's doing. So it looks like Cosmic Movies is done. Multi-tenancy is fully implemented, verified, building cleanly. The app now isolates each tenant's movies, reviewers. Oh, so let's take a look. I think I need to start it. Let's take a look. Is it even online right now? I think
your app is not running.
Yeah. So let's npm. Nope. So one of the things that I always get lost on sometimes, Saji, is like I was a Linux user for so long and a Mac user. And so when I do terminal things, I'm so used to tab being my completion. And then when I do that in VS Code using PowerShell, it never works. And every time I feel silly because it tries to bring up another command. All right. Well, it's still building. Yeah. So it's still building, still coming up. We're just going to want to give this a second. All right. Well, it's always great when things break. Warning says it's starting, ready. Okay. So it looks like we're running into a runtime error. So let's actually feed the log here. Let's feed the log into Copilot. Say, I'm running into this issue. And so what's great is you can just dump error logs right into Copilot. It'll take a look. Or if you're using something like Claude or whatever agent you're using, all of them should allow you to kind of take a look, or all of them will allow you to drop in your logs, your errors, whatever it is. And then it can kind of give you some sort of answer on what's broken, why it's broken, and it'll come up with a fix. It's always been helpful for me in that, like we keep talking about, the type feedback, so that we can kind of keep moving forward and forward and forward. So let's see, reuse the same next. I think this was just starting the wrong. So let's try and looking at here what it said, how it started. Okay. Looks like there might have been another server already running. Okay, yeah. So it's compiling it now, and then it should eventually be available. So Caseflow, what's going on with you? So Caseflow, we're probably waiting on the build to finish. So yeah, that is still building. There's so much going on here. Looks like there's some infrastructure problems. We'll worry about that another time. It's probably something with an MCP server. It looks like out of our control at the moment. So we'll kind of put that to the back, and we'll see what's going on with Cosmic Movies. Oh, okay. So let's back up. Let's take a look at the demo. We can see, we can filter. It's running quickly. And let's go to IndieReel. We can see another tenant, other movies, same ability to go in here to one of these movies. And we can leave reviews. I thought it was bad. All right. So our application works. It's multi-tenant. It's using an optimized data model for it, thanks to the agent kit. And let's go ahead. Let's check it in. So now our app is multi-tenant. Optimized data model. So we'll just commit it with that.
Just a tip there, you can also use that sparkle icon there to generate the PR comment.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Which one is that?
I mean,
I didn't know that. I know that you can. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, right now you have already committed, but you can always use that the sparkle icon next to the
this
command, right?
This will go ahead.
No,
and
the
actually...
below. There is a.
Okay, I'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Thank you though. But yeah, we can go ahead and even look at our data in the emulator. We can take a look at Cosmic Movies. We can see that everything in here. Which movie is this? Harbor Lights. Where is it? I don't know where it is. No big deal. But we would be able to go in here and see information directly in the database about our movies, our reviewers, all that stuff. It'll all be here and visible. It's just my computer is a little slow at the moment. So with my computer getting slow, you know what I think that means, Saji? I think it's time that we start wrapping up.
Yeah, there is a final question. Is there a feature like SSMS included in the actual execution plan that provides a flow chart histogram anywhere in Cosmos DB? Yeah, this is a great question. I think we have the query plan as part of the SDK diagnostics. So that is something that you can enable and see. But definitely we're working on improving the user experience as part of the VS Code extension. So we are working on something called as account dashboard, where you could see like some of the metrics which are related to the query execution. This we don't have any ETA on that, but we are working on it. So yeah, thanks for raising that.
Cool. So Saji, we've gone through this. We've made our Cosmic Movies app multi-tenant. So we expanded upon something that we'd already started building with the agent kit. And then on top of that, we went ahead and we used our agent along with our agent kit skills to run some diagnostics on an application that simply wasn't built correctly. And now hopefully the team over at Caseflow and all their their customers are going to see a fast, efficient, and cost-effective way of using their application. So let's wrap up, Saji. I know we got another one of these coming up. So so let the agent write it, but can it scale? Scale is a huge part of application deployment and ensuring that when you're running, you're running effectively. So that'll be on the 13th of August. You can catch it same time, same back channel. And then, Sajid, what's our other one that we got? We've got one in September. So same situation, 9 a.m. Pacific. You'll see the two of us here, and we'll continue through this series of helping you learn about using agent tools, agent kit, what we can. We just want to help you learn more. So
Yeah,
Sajid, it was great.
if you got any feedbacks, if you got any feedbacks, share us the feedback either through the channel or you can write to us as well.
Yep,
I hope this is useful to those who are watching. Yeah, we will talk about more in the upcoming session.
Yeah, and you can leave comments in the YouTube if you want. We'll try to get back to them when you, because this session is going to be on here and recorded. You can always go back, fast forward, wherever. And like I said, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. There's Sajid's got his X account. Anyway, we just want to be there to help you. So until then, I love that this has that now. Time to go. Bye, everybody. We'll have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.